Good morning. It's morning. You could tell from the sun. I'm Dr. Lynn Daniel, PhD, EDS. I'm the self-care evangelist here on social media. I encourage people to prioritize their personal and professional self-care. I do that through the Word of God and through social science, and I share it with you here on this channel. I'm also in the midst of a 90 Days of Grace self-care challenge in my personal community, in my self-care community. And so I'm doing the work too, you guys. I am leading the community, but I am doing the work again. Like I've been doing the work since when I first came up with the idea. I think it was 2020. So this is year 4. And so, yeah. But, okay, the question is, how did I know that I wanted a doctorate? What made me want a doctorate? Okay, we'll frame it that way. Okay. Well, when I thought back on it to kind of gather my thoughts around it, like, how did I decide on that doctoral process? Well, the first time it came to me was early in my teaching experience. I was a brand new teacher, maybe a first or second year teacher, and I took. I'm a curious person. I like to learn, so I took some extra classes that really weren't necessary or required, and just for me, being in those communities, like being around those people, because they were not even educators, but what they were sharing was helpful to me, and it would help me to be a good educator. At least I felt that. And so just listening to them talk, like their level of conversation was really higher critical thinking, the topics they talked about, the language they used, their word choice, their expressions, how they interacted, like that impressed upon me early on. And I think I was a first year teacher. And then down the road, like a few years after that, a colleague and I were going somewhere. I can't remember where we were going, but we were in her car together, and we had a conversation, and I remember telling her that I would like to have a doctorate, a PhD. Now, back then, y'all, this was the 1980s. This was pre-internet. This was pre-remote learning experiences. Everything was physical and on campus in person. And so for me to think that I would be able, as a young wife, mother, a young new teacher, 2 little babies, age 2 and 4 years old, there was no way I was going to be accepted into a doctorate program back in 1988 or 1986 or whatever. So it was more like a dream that I had. And I guess I didn't really nurture it specifically. But, it was still there, because after that, quite a few years after, so I got my, finished up the master's program, decided to just teach, continue to contribute to my community and develop myself in that way, and grow and give and grow. About a decade passed, and I was engaging with some leadership, educational leadership, and they had doctorates, PhDs, and I was like, Some of them, a few had EDDs, but most of them had PhDs. And I was like, wow, this is cool. Because prior to that, still, I'm going to jump back on the timeline. I can recall either in the late 80s or early 90s, there was a teacher in our district, the district that I was teaching in at that time, who had a PhD. And this particular teacher was still in the classroom. And the conversations amongst teachers was, why did that person need a PhD to teach? And so that teacher was, I don't know if they were criticized in their face, but they were criticized behind their backs in conversations that their colleagues were engaged in. And so it wasn't seen as a favorable move for teachers. Okay, so jumping back to where I was, it was around the late 90s, early 2000s. I was engaging with educational leaders who had PhDs and EDDs. And that was making it seem more real because it was a few of them, less than a handful, about that many, but they were all in leadership. But still, it felt close enough to where I could try that, right? Plus, at that time, my children were older, and I could have easily driven to a campus and done, work on a campus, because that's what I was doing with all those other things. I constantly stayed in a classroom on somebody's campus, like sharpening my tools. But anyway, that's, y'all, I'm long winded. Forgive me for being long winded. I'm just trying to give you all the feelings and ideas, because you don't really know unless you sit down with the career coach and the career coach gives you a plan of action. Like, you don't know. And then to decide on what program you want to be a part of. So I knew I wanted a PhD in literacy, reading specifically, um, not writing, not creative writing, even though I enjoy those things. I wanted something dealing with reading, language, instruction, pedagogy, and then, yeah. So figure out what it is that you're interested in, because that the programs, I don't know how they are now. I get the impression that they are more supportive, but the process of the doctorate, the struggle is a part of the process, but I don't know if the struggle has to be so that intense to make you learn. Like, the struggle of the process of learning APA or Chicago or whatever style you all are using, that's one thing. Then deep diving on your topic in your field is another thing. And then communicating with your committee is a third part of the process that you have to manage. And so the struggle is almost an expected initiation, right? When learning new information, researching, digging deep on your topic is going to be struggle enough. So, yeah, but just know, I would do something that I enjoy, that I have a passion about, or that will take me to the level of life, wherever that is for you, and then have a lot of support to help you get it done, because it's a crazy process. It's no joke. And it's a life-changing process for me, at least. So there you have it. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Be blessed.